What's going on, guys? It's Horse Beef here, and I gave you a little extra long ooh because I didn't give you ooh in the last video. So there you guys go. Hopefully I made up for it there. But today we're going to be covering the scariest fighters in MMA history. Okay, so I've compiled a nice little list here of who I consider to be some of like the scariest fighters. I don't know if it's based off of looks, if it's based off of fighting style, or just vibes. You know, it could be a combination of all of them. But let's just see how I rate them. And as you can see, the very top, I believe, spells out exactly what it means, and then the very bottom is, you know, it's a little, you know, they make you shit just a little bit, but then just in between C, B, and A, we'll see how it shapes up. I'm not too sure. I was trying to think of other category names in between Turtlehead and Shit My Pants, but that's very tough. So I just kept it at C, B, and A. But you guys understand how a tier list works, and you're not children, so I won't take time explaining it to you guys. But let's just get into the first one, man. Francis Ngannou. Now, does he make me shit my pants? He kind of does. He kind of does. He's a big, jacked individual. He's a scary dude, so I'm gonna put him right in shit my pants because he would honestly. But then he speaks though, and he's such a soft individual when he speaks. But then at the same time, if you know, you know, right? A soft-spoken person is usually the most dangerous, right? The loudest man in the room, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is usually not the toughest. So, yeah, you know what? The fact that Francis Ngannou is so soft-spoken, and when he opens his mouth, he sounds like a teddy bear, makes him even scarier. So, yeah, Francis Ngannou, shit my pants 100%. Rousimar Pilares. Now, the reason why he's scary, like, aside from the fact that he is pretty scary looking and he's jacked out of his mind, is just the fact that he has no regard for his opponent's safety and will tear your knee ligaments, like any ligaments that he can tear on your body, he will do it, and he has done it. Does not let go of submissions, and that is a scary thing. I'll put him in B tier because, yeah, the scariest part about him is the fact that he is an asshole, you know. So yeah, I'll put him in. Actually, you know what? Nah, C tier, because this guy's been knocked out left, right, and center, and he's just kind of an asshole, you know. So I wouldn't exactly be scared of him. I would probably want to kick his ass. I would want to kick his ass, even though he would still tear my knees up. I would still want to kick his ass. I'm not too sure I would fear this man. So you know what? Nah, Turtlehead. And when I say that, of course, this guy would scare me. If he really wanted to kill me, I'm sure he could do it. Absolutely. Cain Velasquez, very scary guy. The man had the bloodlust, right, in his prime, just crazy cardio. Plus he's Mexican, so he has that going for him too. I guess scary looking tattoos. He doesn't have like the size factor like a Francis Ngannou. Although he is soft spoken like him, but he's more scary for the version of Cain that you would get in the cage with him, right? Prime Cain Velasquez. He's a scary man, but does he deserve to be anywhere at the top? Now I'll put him at like B tier. I think Cain Velasquez represents like the B tier as far as scary fighters go. John Bones Jones. Now this one is a tough one because I feel like John Jones, he probably should be up here, right? He is a pretty scary guy. In all honesty, like we might not respect John Jones anymore, but the man is always a very ruthless person. The way that he would speak, like the way he spoke to DC ahead of both of their fights, the man sounded like a serial killer. He really did. So I do believe that John Jones should be up here, but I think that recent events have taken a little bit away from his aura, as people like to say nowadays. So I'm going to put him at A tier. He's not quite as scary as Francis Ngannou. Vanderlei Silva, the axe murderer, I'm sticking him straight in shit my pants, and I'm putting him right at the very top. Now I think that Vanderlei Silva is probably hands down, maybe along with another fighter that we'll cover soon, is the scariest fighter of all time. If you never watched his Pride highlights, then you don't understand the level of violence. And I guess, I mean, like this man pretty much committed war crimes in Pride. It was wild. If you've never seen him stomp on someone's head, I guess that's kind of a factor that a lot of these other fighters who didn't compete under that rule set don't have to their name, is the fact that we've witnessed Vanderlei Silva stomp on people's heads, soccer kick people in the face. So that adds to the fear factor. But of course, his nickname is also the Axe Murderer, and you don't question it when you hear that his name's the Axe Murderer. You're like, yeah, that checks out. This dude could very well be an axe murderer, and I would not even question it for a single second, just based off his fight style. The dude is terrifying, and he was jacked out of his mind too in his prime. Like prime Vanderlei, You cannot tell me that anyone is as scary as him. And plus, like, the stare downs, dude. The stare downs alone are enough to put him at the very top here. So Vanderlei Silva, absolutely 100% makes me shit my pants. Chuck Liddell. Now, this is a tough one because I don't actually think that Chuck Liddell is that scary. But I'm going to put him at C tier. And I feel like this picture I chose definitely takes a little bit away from it, from his fear. But yeah, like the Iceman in his prime was a very scary dude. He really was. But I just can only put him at C tier personally. Dan Severn. My goodness. There's something about Dan Severn that makes me not want to put him at shit my pants, even if he might be the most intimidating and the most masculine looking dude of all time. Like a prime Dan Severn. You just have to watch him go to war with Akiyama, and you realize right there, holy shit, this man is terrifying. But he's almost cool. Like, sorry, he's not almost cool. He's extremely cool. But he's almost too cool to be afraid of him. Where I want to meet him and I want to shake his hand, and I'm not shitting my pants if I meet him, but I'm intimidated 100%. So Dan Severn, A tier, but man, him in his old age right now, he's probably the coolest old man of all time. If you've never heard Dan Severn speak, listen to his voice, and you'll probably grow 3 to 4 chest hairs instantaneously upon hearing him speak. Then we get Igor Vovchanchyn. I don't know how to say the name. I really don't know how to say it. But this dude, he's kind of a pioneer of MMA. He competed in the mid to late 90s and also early 2000s and retired in the mid 2000s and hasn't really fought MMA since. But if you've never seen this guy's highlights, this man was just pure power. Cold, ice cold. I'm pretty sure ice cold is actually his nickname too, which is ironic. The man was a killer. He really, really was. He's Ukrainian as well, so that Eastern European just cold-bloodedness that he exuded, it makes him terrifying. And I'm going to put him at A tier as well. Now, Sergey Pavlovich, I feel like he's lost a lot of that mysticism and a lot of that fear factor recently with his recent 2 losses. Man, got dominated by Volkov. But he still is a big-ass Russian and looks like a polar bear. So I'm going to put him at B tier. I still think he's scary despite losing 2 fights recently. Like, I don't think it should factor in too much as far as how scary he is. But it does a little bit, right? Justin Gaethje. Now, the thing about Justin Gaethje is that he doesn't actually scare me. He doesn't scare me. His mindset scares me 100%. I feel like he's so willing to take damage that makes him scary. And I would hate to be in the octagon with him or in any scenario where I have to fight this man. I feel like he's literally willing to die, and that type of mentality, it propels him to a higher point on this list. So I'm going to put Justin Gaethje at B tier just by virtue of the fact that this man is willing to die. And a lot of people say it, but I feel like he actually displays that, which makes him terrifying. Alistair Overeem. Now, this is more of an aesthetic thing because we know that Alistair Overeem's chin has never been the greatest, so he is a bit of a glass cannon. But this version of Overeem specifically was just a terrifying looking individual, one of the craziest physiques we've ever seen at weigh-ins. The back on this man was just ridiculous, makes no sense. But is he as scary as the guys at A tier? I wouldn't say he is. So I'm going to put Overeem at B tier, Mr. Horse Beef himself. Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now I'm gonna stick him in Turtlehead because while he's on this list for a very good reason because he is a scary person, but I feel like Khabib doesn't really provide that intimidation factor. Like, I guess yes, he is ice cold with the trash talk sometimes, but it's the fight style, right? The fight style doesn't strike fear into me. Of course, I know he can take me down and drag me into very, very deep waters and torture me in there. I understand that he could absolutely do that, but I just don't look at Khabib and think, wow, you're scary. It also helps that he's more similar to my size than a lot of the guys above him are. So I guess that might factor in too. Like, the fact that the people at the very top of the list are going to be like the biggest ones on this list as well, I guess is a factor. But for me, it's an important factor because if you're bigger than me and you look like Francis Ngannou or Dan Severn or Vanderlei Silva, then yeah, you scare the shit out of me. Brock Lesnar. Now, I'm not too sure how scary this dude is. He's mostly scary for his physical attributes, similar to Alistair Overeem, so I think I'll put him in the same category as Alistair Overeem. I think it's pretty fair, but yeah, watching Brock Lesnar in his heyday in the UFC, the speed, the explosiveness of him, and the size, the dude was scary, and that was during a time when some heavyweights were honestly pretty undersized. So like watching Cain Velasquez look like half Brock Lesnar's size, but watching him beat the shit out of him It was honestly a pretty scary sight, and it's making me consider put Cain Velasquez up a tier. But nah, I think for now we're going to keep him at B. And then we get into Vitor Belfort, specifically TRT Vitor. Now, this man was scary. He really was. Like that 3-fight knockout streak where he was just landing head kicks. I think he head kicked Bisping, Dan Henderson, and wheel kick finished Luke Rockhold in that run before fighting John Jones and almost breaking his arm. So yes, TRT Vitor is a scary, scary guy. But if Uberim is in B tier, you know, they're both scary because of the supplements that they were taking, the very, very legal supplements that they were on. So yeah, science is the reason why they're so scary. And that just doesn't, that's not as pertinent as the reason why a Vovchachin or a Dan Severn or a Ngannou or Vanderlei Silva are scary. You know, they're scary because you just look them in the eyes and you see, you know, you see bad intentions. With Vitor Belfort, maybe the same thing, but he's never been as scary as he was when he was TRT Belfort. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm gonna keep my B tier. I think that's pretty fair. Alexander Emelianenko. Now he's very possibly a terrible person, but he is a terrifying looking guy. He has Russian mob ties, I'm pretty sure. Right, his tattoos are scary, and you just look at a picture of him most recently. This dude looks like a serial killer. If you haven't seen the new horror movie Long Legs, he kind of looks like Nicolas Cage in Long Legs, which is a scary thing. And I'm pretty sure he's murdered people, and he also was a killer in Pride as well. He was pretty good in Pride. Yeah, he got finished a few times, but the man hit hard. He had good hands. So like his fight style, his aesthetic, and just the fact that he's genuinely capable of doing horrible things makes me shit my pants. So yeah, Alexander Emelianenko is in there for a very good reason. Dan Henderson. Now, he is pretty soft-spoken, but once he gets in there, dude, it's his fight style that makes him so terrifying. It's his fight style. So he's got to be B tier. Like, he just looks like he's holding 2 dumbbells in each of his hands every time he throws punches. His punches just look so heavy, and he's so stiff, and he just looks like an old man in there who just knows how to take your head off, and that's a scary thing to me. So Dan Henderson, I think, yeah, B tier. B tier is pretty fair for him. Diego the Nightmare Sanchez, I think it would be disingenuous to put him above Khabib, so I think I'll put him down here because like even like the prime version of Diego Sanchez, he was scary because of how tenacious he was and how willing he was to take damage in order to land shots of his own. So I guess it's a similar fear factor to that of Justin Gaethje, but I just don't consider him to be as scary as Justin Gaethje, so we'll keep him at the bottom there. Tony Ferguson, now this is El Cucuy, like prime Tony Ferguson. I actually don't find him to be that scary, but I do think that he's scarier than guys below him with Khabib, Sanchez, and Husmar Polares. So I think C tier is the perfect spot for a prime Tony. For once again, a similar reason to Sanchez and Gaethje is that he was willing to eat whatever you could throw at him in order to get in your face and make you bleed. And also that is a factor too, that all of his opponents would look like they were put through a wood chipper after fighting at prime Tony Ferguson. So the visual of his opponents after dealing with 3 to 5 rounds with a prime Tony Ferguson is a scary visual. So yeah, that propels him. But honestly, like the style of Tony, and yeah, of course, like the 8-fight losing streak that he's on does take a lot away. But I'm mostly just weighing up prime Tony, and prime Tony was a pretty scary guy. So I think C tier for him is pretty fair. Fedor Emelianenko. Now I'm gonna have to put him 1 slot below his brother because I don't think that Fedor Emelianenko has committed horrible crimes in his life, although is he capable of it? Maybe, I'm not too sure. And he was a lot more I'd say soft and reserved compared to his brother, but maybe the fact that he isn't a cold-blooded criminal, does that play in his favor? Me, like, no, I feel like Fedor Emelianenko just scares me a little bit less because he's not capable of the same stuff that his brother is. Even though he's a better fighter than his brother, I'm more scared of the fact that Alexander Emelianenko would very likely stab me for looking at him the wrong way. So yeah, Fedor Emelianenko A tier just because I feel like he's a bit more merciful than his terrifying brother. Bigfoot Silva. Now this one is pretty much just aesthetic. The man has one of the scariest looking faces of all time. Like, he really does. The jaw is ridiculous, and just the whole structure of his face is terrifying. He looks like he potentially skipped like 2 or 3 stages in evolution. It's wild. It's wild. Like, the man is very scary looking. He really, really is. And honestly, he was a bit of an animal in the cage too, right? At his best, he was good. But I don't know if he really, I mean, yeah, the physical aspect of it, yeah, you know what? Just because of his face, I'm going to put him in C tier. He scares me more than Khabib. Khabib doesn't scare me, man. Even though he would beat me up, he doesn't scare me. I mean, sorry, he makes me turtle head just a little bit, just a tiny bit. Anthony Johnson. This dude was a scary, scary individual at 205, right? Even at welterweight, when he somehow made that weight class, right? He was scary, right? He always had ridiculous knockout power. Punch for punch, he might be just behind Francis Ngannou as far as the hardest hitters of all time. So that factor alone is enough to put Anthony Johnson at A tier. Rest in peace, legend. Rest in peace. That's all I can say. A tier for him. Jan Blachowicz. Now, this is mostly covering him when he was on his title run, right? He was a demon. The guy was scary. The Polish power was real. He was knocking everyone's head off. Corey Anderson, the way he did Dominic Reyes, nearly brought me to tears, man. It really almost did, man. I love me some Dominic Reyes, and Jan Blachowicz pieced him up with crazy body kicks, destroyed his ribs, and just cleaned him out. Just in the end, cleaned him out. And that knockout, like I said, against Corey Anderson was a scary thing. And the celebration, man, like when he turned and stared at John Jones. I know John Jones looked like he wanted it, but the fact that fight never materialized, I think speaks volumes to me, because Jan Blachowicz was an animal at that time. He really was. This prime Jan Blachowicz was a scary, scary man. But he's so soft-spoken. He's such a nice dude, right? And Polish people, I feel like they just have this, I don't want to say softness, but they have this warmness about them that takes away from the fear factor. But I still do think that B tier is a proper placement for Jan Blachowicz. Rampage Jackson. This is prime Rampage Jackson. Was he a scary dude? Yes, he was. Yes, he was. Then I think about him getting his face kneed in by like a prime Vanderlei Silva. Oh my goodness. And he just doesn't have the same like fear factor as a fighter like a Vanderlei Silva, right? He's more scary for the power that he possessed, and the slam KOs. The slam KOs definitely add to his fear factor as well. But yeah, I think B tier is just about perfect for Rampage Jackson. Yeah, I'll stick him there. Jacare Sousa. Now this is a combination of a few factors, right? The aura around him, right? The face, the facial shape, the facial features, the fact that he would knock down opponents and then walk towards them with malicious intent. Right, like if you've never seen the way he walked towards Weidman after dropping him with the nasty right hand, or when he dropped Brunson with, I believe it was a head kick, and the way that he walked him down and just casually finished him the way that he did. I know Jacare wasn't the best fighter of all time, but Jacare Sousa is one of the scariest men, I think, who's ever competed in MMA. It doesn't matter that he lost some fights. The aura surrounding Jacare Sousa, the dude was so scary. But does he deserve to be an A tier? I'm not sure he does. But B tier for Jacare Sousa, I think, is absolutely perfect. Then we get into the most recent one on this list. Poatan, Alex Pereira. I'm sticking him in A tier. I don't think he's the scariest. I don't think he's as scary as Ngannou. I don't think he's as scary as Vanderlei. I don't think he's as scary as Alexander Emelianenko. But at the same time, yes, I do. So I'm going to put him in A tier. He makes me shit my pants. He really does. Just don't watch the videos of him doing the Pikachu thing, because that'll definitely take away from the fear a little bit. But the man is just he's such a kind individual, I think, and like despite the allegations that have gone around recently, Alex, I feel like, is just a good-hearted dude. But when he gets in there, the look on his face, right, the way that he stared down Yuri Prochazka at the weigh-ins and ahead of both of their fights, the man, he has some serious bad intentions in his eyes, and the fact that he can turn that off when outside the octagon and be just such a stand-up guy. Like I said about Francis Ngannou, right? Soft-spoken, nice dude outside the octagon, but inside becomes an absolute killer and is willing to straight up murder dudes in there, man. He really is, and that is a scary thing to me. And of course, the aesthetic as well. The dude is built like a brick shithouse. He's so big. At 205, man, the amount of muscle that he has on his body, like Joe Rogan said, he looks like he's made out of mahogany, whatever that fucking means. Shane Carwin. Now Shane Carwin is scary because he was kind of like Brock Lesnar in a sense where he was just pure power and explosiveness, but he just never had the gas tank, right? So whenever he'd go past the first round, like what would happen against Brock Lesnar? He beat up Brock for a round, but then he just gassed. But he's a heavyweight and hit like a truck. So I would say C tier is good for him. Kevin the Monster Randleman. Now his MMA record, if you look at it, you might think, he's not that scary, but remember, Pride era was a different type of era, and just like I said about Anthony Johnson, rest in peace Kevin Randleman. But I think I'll put him at B tier. Just watch him wrestle, watch him slam Fedor on his head. The tenacity, the power, the explosiveness, the power in the hands too. Even knocked out Mirko Cro Cop, which is a crazy feat, honestly, at that time as well. That was when Mirko Cro Cop was an absolute animal in Pride, just knocking everyone's head off with the head kicks, right? Kevin Randleman was a scary dude. He really was. The physique, the slams, the power, everything about him, man. Physically, right? Just he's a scary dude. B tier for him. Anderson Silva. Now that's a tough one. Now Anderson Silva, I think I'm gonna put him in C tier because his demeanor is too soft, right? He's too respectful, and then his fight style, it seemed like at times Anderson Silva was too playful with his opponents. And when he got later in his career, that playfulness resulted in him being knocked out, right? And him being clowned a little bit. So Anderson Silva, I think down to the fight style and the aura surrounding him in his prime, I think puts him in C tier. Just about C tier. Mirko Cro Cop. Now you know what? This dude has to go at the very top because he's very likely actually killed people. If you know his military and police background, he very likely has taken a life, which makes him terrifying. And I'm going to put the video of Wanderlei Silva and Cro Cop's stare down right here, just so you guys can witness this. And we're just going to have a moment of silence for that really quick, just so you can witness it. Like, come on. The greatest face-off of all time. The greatest. The intensity on both men's eyes. Like, Wanderlei Silva looks like he's sizing up his prey, but Cro Cop looks like he's like sizing up his next murder victim, which is crazy. Cro Cop, terrifying individual, and physically the guy was a monster. And the left high kick is enough, honestly, to put him on this list. The fact that he would just throw that thing out, the way that he would throw it out, the power, the explosiveness, the accuracy of it. He could just break your guard with it, and if he lands clean, unless your name is Mark Hunt, you're going down. And he even put out Wanderlei Silva with that head kick, one of the nastiest knockouts you'll ever see in Pride. Like, seriously, man, it looked like Wanderlei Silva was on death's doorstep after being connected with that shot. So I'm going to put Cro Cop. Like, I know I don't really rank the same tiers against each other, but I feel like Cro Cop and Wanderlei just have to be side by side on this list because they are probably two of the scariest people of all time. Like let alone fighters, but like scariest looking people. And the fact that we got to have such a badass face off between them just makes it even better for me. Yoel Romero. Now this is more of a physical thing, of course. One of the craziest physiques we've ever seen. So explosive, so athletic. And it almost makes him more terrifying with the fact that he knocks out Luke Rockhold, praises Jesus, and like gives him a kiss. That's a scary thing. Like, I know some people might say that that's sus or whatever you like to say. But nah, that adds to the fear factor for me. That really does. If someone knocks me out, I wake up and they're giving me a kiss. I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? That's terrifying. Yoel Romero, A tier for me. BJ Penn. Now this is a very tough one because I feel like BJ Penn, he might deserve to be a little bit higher because the man loved blood. He had the bloodlust, right? He had that iconic celebration where he'd lick his opponent's blood off of his gloves after finishing him. Now that's a factor, right? That is definitely a factor right there that we need to consider. That is a scary thing. Does he deserve to be in B tier? He might actually deserve to be in B tier. You know what? Nah, it wasn't as long-lived, It was a very short-lived prime for the man, and I feel like the way the end of his career is shaped up, but also the fact that he didn't even really train that hard and he was still such an animal kind of adds to how scary the dude is, that he just loved violence, right? The man just loved violence. So nah, I'm putting BJ Penn, like a prime BJ Penn, B tier at the very least when it comes to scariest fighters. Then we get into Shogun Rua. Now, similar to what I said about Wanderlei Silva or anyone else that competed in Pride, is that it's a bit unfair because we have video of Shogun Rua kicking people in the face while they're on the ground soccer kicks, stomps on the face. That is a scary thing to witness. It really is. But Shogun Rua in Pride really was a scary, scary guy. He just didn't have the same kind of fear factor that a guy like Vanderlei Silva did as far as the aesthetic, right? Like Vanderlei is just a scary looking dude. He really is. The fight style was scary though on Shogun Rua. The man was tough as nails, had power. And yeah, like I said, I will very likely include a quick video of Shogun Rua kicking somebody in the face while they're on the ground, and that is enough to almost make you shit your pants, but just not quite there. But Shogun Rua, I think B tier is absolutely fair for him. And then last but not least, we have Robbie Lawler. Now, what's scary about Robbie Lawler? I would say he's a scary looking dude, and like I said, the soft-spoken demeanor about him does kind of add to the fear, because when he gets in that cage, man, you would not expect it, that he is so tenacious. When he grits his teeth and just comes forward, it's a scary thing to behold. And really, you just have to watch the way that he brutalized Robbie Lawler's nose, followed by the celebration with his lip all split up, looking nasty, and he's just screaming anyway, making his lips split open even more. That's a scary thing. That is a scary thing. The man, like very, very similar to guys like Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson, Diego Sanchez, where he would just walk forward, take all the damage in order to give a bit of his own. And you know what? That is a scary thing, but I just can't put him anywhere else but B tier. I think B tier is absolutely perfect for a Robbie Lawler. Maybe he could even be in a tier below. But a prime Robbie was a scary dude, especially in the 5th round, man. You don't want to make it to the 5th round with Robbie Lawler, because he's making you work in that 5th round. He's walking you down. He's throwing bombs. And, yeah, he was just a joy to watch. But a scary dude, ultimately. And really all it takes is watching the Rory McDonald fight to get to the bottom of why I have him on this list in the first place. But that is the list as a whole. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about this tier list. And as I always ask you guys, if you have any future video ideas that you would like to see me cover, I'm a man of the people. Whatever you guys want to see, I will put out for you guys. So I do appreciate you watching as always. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and have a good one.